This week on ANN, see the church's response to the damage caused by Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Tortola.
Get a glimpse of recovery efforts in response to Mexico's recent 2 earthquakes.
And Adventist humanitarians assist Rohingya refugees living in Bangladesh while addressing the worst flooding the country has seen in 40 years.
These stories and more coming up.
Leaders of various Adventist entities in Puerto Rico are assessing the damage in wake of Hurricane Maria. The storm slammed into the island last Wednesday at 155 miles per hour, or nearly 250 kilometers per hour.
The damage is cataclysmic. The majority of the island's 3.5 million residents don't have electricity, food, water, or access to life-saving medicine.
Damaged or destroyed power lines and cell phone towers have impeded communication operations among emergency response officials.
The administrator of Bellavista, the church's hospital in the nation, says it is operational. Luis Rivera told the governor of Puerto Rico the hospital is housing and treating 62 patients.
The church's Inter-American region, along with Loma Linda University Health, is sending funds to Bellavista to ensure it remains open to serve.
Other Adventist leaders have also sent reports, including the president of Antillean Adventist University. Obed Jimenez said that 210 students and faculty living on campus are safe. He also says the university has enough supplies and plenty of food to sustain operations.
According to the director of communication for the church's entire Puerto Rico territory, Adventist radio stations in the nation are unable to broadcast.
Leaders will continue to make assessments as they prepare to assist church and community members in need.
Our Hurricane Maria coverage continues with reports of a daring rescue operation in the Dominican Republic. A handful of master guides are responsible for rescuing 60 people in Hato Mayor. A master guide is the highest level of the Pathfinder curriculum within Adventist Youth Ministries. The curriculum teaches various survivor skills in addition to its spiritual development activities. The master guides assisted scores of people when water began to flood the El Renacer Seventh-day Adventist Church, where the group took refuge. They then helped families climb over walls and fences to leave the church. Luckily, the group only had to travel a short distance. They headed toward the El Amor Adventist Church, which is located 200 meters or 656 feet from El Renacer. El Amor was sheltering more than 300 people before the group from El Renacer arrived. Berora is one of the master guides who helped the group traverse high water to reach the church. According to Berora, the water went up to their chests. He said, "We held hands and headed through the streets away from the strong currents. We saw many people about to drown, but we locked arms with them and pulled them to safety." Adventist members and leaders throughout the nation have served their communities by meeting urgent needs. Members donated enough food, water, clothes, sheets, and mattresses to fill 4 trucks. The materials were then distributed to families in need. Some have partnered with World Vision to provide breakfast and dinner to 500 people in El Saibo. Adra Dominican has distributed 350 hygienic kits to families in Miches. The agency will distribute 350 more within the same territory in Hato Mayor and El Saibo in the coming weeks.
The recent 7.1 earthquake in Mexico City killed hundreds, pulverizing dozens of buildings, and severely damaged thousands of buildings and homes. The damage has left thousands without shelter, food, water, and medicine. Adventist churches and schools have served as food dispensaries and medicine stations in response. Church administrators, pastors, and members have also joined various search and rescue operations throughout the city. Top leaders of the church's Central Mexico territory will travel to assess all the Adventist churches and schools in the affected area. They will also assess ways they can serve surrounding communities. In addition, volunteers will assist workers of the Adventist Development and Relief Agency in Mexico who are laminating roofs in vulnerable communities. Visit facebook.com/AdraMexico to follow relief efforts.
The epicenter of last week's earthquake in Mexico was in the state of Morelos, where 73 people were killed. Some of the quake's most apparent devastation is in the town of Jojutla. The small, impoverished town now has scores of homeless families who have lost everything. Nearly 500 master guides and members have set up food stations in Jojutla to provide meals, food baskets, and bottles of water. Church leaders in the area are still making assessments of the church's properties in the region. So far, there are reports of 4 Adventist churches that were damaged, and the 3 church schools damaged by the earthquake will remain closed until authorities declare them safe to operate.
The British Virgin Island of Tortola was among the several Caribbean nations that experienced the back-to-back hurricanes Irma and Maria. ADRA has organized a food distribution project in the nation in partnership with a local church. Let's follow the project's leaders and volunteers as they go through the initial steps to prepare for the distribution.
Today was the day where we procured the items that we are going to distribute in the island. Not only the distribution, but also the buying. It's important to be done in the local where we are going to distribute.
We had about 8 or 10 containers coming for relief that we dealt with on Monday and got a lot of that out. And more coming in right now. So help me get my equipment back on.
We have prepared a 17 kilogram parcel food. That is actually food that is going to be distributed to one family. So that's a 17 kilogram. We have enough energy for that family to stay for 7 days.
Commercial traffic until you have...
This is British Virgin Islands. Tortola Island is highly dependent on tourism. Right now there are no tourists here. And the majority of the people work on a check-by-check basis, and they need their money to pay for those things. If they don't have tourism, they don't have income. If they don't have income, they don't have food.
We're trying to deal with some humanitarian stuff, man. Work with us. We had Peter Pan lined up, but it seems as if he got snatched away. We're trying to get 500 packages so that we can serve the people who are most in need.
From where to where?
Just from here to the church.
Oh, the port?
Right here to the church.
Oh, for 1 mile.
Yeah.
Right here.
What you can do first? The truck is getting back here. We have just contracted him to make 4 trips for us to get all the resources up to the church at Purcell.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Now we need more people to help us unload. We're supposed to have like 12 volunteers here, but we only one show up, which is you. A good thing, but we need more people. Let's go, brother. We used the whole day today to get everybody moving, and we got all the pieces together. At the end of the day, we got it finished. The job for today is done. We got the money in, we got the materials to be ready to be distributed on Sunday, and that is a good thing.
All of the countries that we've mentioned so far in this week's show are located within the Church's Inter-American region. This region is also known as the Inter-American Division, or IAD. The president for the territory, which encompasses 42 countries and islands, is Israel Leto. Leto shared a message this week of assurance and compassion for members who have been affected by the recent natural disasters. IAD has more.
One thing we are sure, these things that are happening is but a small sample of what will go on the world just prior to the coming of our Lord. And as we see them, it's not for us to be desperate, but it is for us to say, "Come, Lord Jesus. Help us, protect us, guide us, help us to see and understand what is going on, but above all, help us to be ready for the coming of the Lord." And wherever we can, even though we cannot go to the specific places to give a helping hand, we can pray. When an offering is asked for, we can contribute. We can always think on the brethren that are going through these troubled times. And those who are going through these troubled times, please remember, your life has been upset, but don't forget, the Lord loves you, your church loves you, and we will care for you as much as we can.
Leaders in the territory under the direction of Leto are looking for additional ways to help church members rebuild their lives in the wake of these unprecedented storms.
The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Zeid Ra'ad al-Hussein, has called it a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. Ambassador al-Hussein used these words to describe the Rohingya crisis taking place in Myanmar.
The Intersector Coordination Group, or ISCG, oversees relief efforts among humanitarian agencies in Bangladesh. According to the ISCG, the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar has affected more than 1.2 million people.
The Rohingya are considered to be the world's most persecuted people. More than 436,000 have fled from Myanmar to Bangladesh in this month alone.
Rohingyas are a stateless Indo-Aryan ethnic body. The majority of Rohingya are Muslims, while more than 90% of the population in Myanmar are Buddhists.
Myanmar does not grant them citizenship, even though the Rohingya claim their ancestors have occupied the region for generations.
On August 25, violence erupted in the nation-state of Rakhine, where organized attacks have taken place against the minority group. More than 4,000 Rohingya were killed in the following weeks.
Those who left the country after August 25 have joined the 197,000 Rohingya refugees who are already living in Bangladesh. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency in Bangladesh is serving the needs of some of the 500,000 refugees living in the nation.
ADRA is also simultaneously helping the country recover from the worst flooding it's experienced in 40 years. The agency distributed food and shelter kits this week to 3,600 Rohingya families living in Cox's Bazar.
Learn more about this crisis by visiting adra.org.
Coming up, see the conclusion of Sam Vell's story of his service as a pediatric neurosurgeon.
Then, Adventist youth are challenged to see the different ways they can serve as a missionary.
Меня зовут Азанетта, и я говорю по-русски. Есть так много замечательных видеофильмов, но так мало из них переводятся. Вы можете помочь.
Join the Amara translation and caption team today. Amara is easy to learn and fun. You can volunteer in your free time. Join this community today and provide great content in your language.
Welcome back. More than 1,400 young people were encouraged to be missionaries for God during an international event in Argentina.
The I Will Go Congress drew youth and young adults from all parts of the world. It was organized by the Seventh-day Adventist Church's Public Campus Ministries.
I Will Go was held at the River Plate Adventist University in Entre Rios.
The Adventist Church's South American territory sent this report.
When Jesus said, "Follow me," he told his disciples to go. To come to I Will Go conference and see young people in unison saying, "I will go." It has touched my heart and it has really encouraged me. I believe this I Will Go movement should be the movement of the Adventist Church. That every single Adventist person should say, "I will go." I wanted to thank for this experience that I had here and allowing me to meet young people who are filled with the missionary spirit of Jesus Christ.
I Will Go has touched my heart deeply. It has been a privilege for me to participate in this Congress. Seeing so many people gathered all together here in one place with one common purpose has been a beautiful experience for me.
This week, we have the last installment of Sam Vell's testimony.
See how he remained hopeful in the face of a seemingly unimaginable case involving a 4-year-old patient.
One of my recent patients, 4-year-old boy who had a severe traumatic brain injury, was in coma for about 2 weeks. I was praying and all the church members were praying for him. All neurosurgeons and intensive care unit physicians, they were telling me and his parents that he is going to die. Once his parents came to me, they were so discouraged. They told me that everybody were telling that they will lose their son soon. But I had a great hope and told his parents, "Pray and don't pay attention to them. Our God is great and your son will survive." The other day I told all medical staff that the boy would not die. After 2 weeks at the night time, when I had a night shift at the hospital, his condition became worse. Pulmonary edema on the left side, and then 2 hours later on both sides, 2 lungs. It was a hard night. I was sitting nearby his bed at the intensive care unit at 3 a.m. and praying for him. I prayed, "God, please show your power to these people. Heal this boy, that everybody could see that you are almighty." 1 hour later I came back to ICU. His condition was stabilized. I was talking with his parents, giving them hope and encouraging them. 3 days later, he opened his eyes and soon started to talk. Everyone was surprised at ICU and neurosurgical departments. Now he is already at home, talking and running, no neurological deficit. That's the miraculous work God did in my life. We don't have to take it as granted. It was a miracle. Each patient has his own story, but God is always the same. The story of Dr. Ben Carson had a great impact on my choice, and one of my dreams was to meet Dr. Carson face to face and say words of appreciation and admiration. Pediatric neurosurgery is hard, stressful, but I love what I do. And I thank God because I have great understanding and support from my wife. It takes all my time, but two things are more important for me: time for God and time for my wife and my family. As my favorite Bible text says, those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Let's be a source of inspiration on this earth.
Before we go to break, we'd like to send a very special birthday greeting to Greta Craven, who turned 100 years old last week.
Greta was born September 22, 1917 in Utrecht, Holland. Her family moved to the U.S. state of Michigan when she was 3 years old.
She married Homer Craven in the U.S. state of Indiana in 1936. They would go on to have two sons, Michael and Richard, and settle in the greater San Francisco area in the U.S. state of California.
Greta and her husband had been married for 65 years when he passed away in 2001. She continued to be the best mother for her sons until their deaths in 2015.
Today, Greta is deeply loved by her church family at the Antioch Seventh-day Adventist Church, who arranged to have this surprise birthday greeting.
Her church family solicits their fellow members worldwide to pray that Greta and their community will be ready for the soon second coming of Christ.
Greta, we wish you God's many blessings this year and beyond. Happy birthday.
Coming up, see how you can help raise awareness of mental health in the workplace.
But up next, learn which country was the first to make Lutheran its official religion.
May I work in with you, young fella?
Yeah. Go for it.
That's the way you do it. Got to put a little weight on it. But I'll put it back up here for you.
Welcome back. Did you know that the Protestant Reformation also made its way to Northern Europe?
Theologians from Denmark and Sweden, who were greatly influenced by Martin Luther, led profound spiritual revivals in their respective nations.
Learn about the Scandinavian Reformation in this week's episode of Lineage.
The Reformation of the 16th century was not limited to the powerhouses of Switzerland, Germany, France, England, and Scotland, but also in the Nordic countries of Scandinavia, something special would take place. Whilst the fires of martyrs were burning all across England during the reign of bloody Queen Mary, and the Protestants in France were persecuted on numerous occasions, in Sweden and Denmark, the Reformation would unfold much more peacefully, and one could argue they had a greater proportional impact in each respective country. The story of the Scandinavian Reformation is inextricably linked to Martin Luther and the Protestant bastion of Wittenberg. In the country of Denmark, one of the principal figures in the Reformation was a man named Hans Tausen. Like many others, he had grown up in a Catholic family and spent some of his early years in a cloister. He completed much of his education in Denmark, where he was noted for his understanding of Latin and Hebrew, but he would also go on to study in Cologne. Whilst there, he came across some of Luther's writings, and in 1523 he went to Germany, where he met Martin Luther and became acquainted with the new ideas that were being espoused. He would spend 18 months studying there with Luther, after which he would return to Denmark, where initially he kept it a secret that he had been in Wittenberg. However, the good news of the gospel could not be hidden forever, and it was only a matter of time before his teachings were noted to be different from that of others. He was soon expelled from the cloister, but this was perhaps the biggest mistake that his opponents could make. Now they had no control over him, and he was able to travel and preach throughout the whole country, causing a great revival. He also translated the Pentateuch into Danish, and this was circulated widely. Towson lived faithfully here in Denmark for the rest of his life, and his influence was key in this whole country accepting the Reformed faith. This church here in Copenhagen was built and named after him in memory of the great influence he had on the spiritual history of this nation. Around the same time as Towson was causing a revival in Denmark, the Petri brothers were having a similar impact here in Sweden. The work in these two countries shows that the disciples were just as powerful and scholarly as the giants under which they studied. Olaf and Laurentius Petri, the sons of a blacksmith in Årebo, both studied at the University of Wittenberg, where they were influenced by Luther and Melanchthon. Olaf completed his masters in 1519, and they both returned back to their homeland of Sweden. They helped to translate the Bible into Swedish, and through their hard work at the Diet of Västerås, Sweden was declared Lutheran, the first country to do so. Olaf Petri was buried here in this church, which later became the National Cathedral, supplanting the Uppsala Cathedral, a testament to the great work that he and his brother did. While it might have been easier for the Petri brothers or Towson to live, study and work in a place like Wittenberg or Geneva, God had a better thing in store for them. Their destiny was to return to their homeland and preach the gospel there. They knew the language, the culture and the customs, and they were able to do a work there that others from elsewhere would not have been able to do. Whatever work you do, may you start with that which lies nearest, whether it be your home church, which might be small, humble and not so lively, or maybe it's your home country. Not everyone is called to go to a faraway and distant land, but we can all start working for God right where we are. May you follow God's call as these men did in years gone by.
Visit lineagejourney.com for more information about the series and to watch additional episodes.
The World Federation for Mental Health wants as many people as possible to know about World Mental Health Day. They know that one of the best ways to raise awareness of the year's campaign is through social media.
Emily Mastrapa explains how you can help by telling your followers about mental health in the workplace.
1 in 4 adults will experience mental health difficulties. 1 in 5 people in the workplace experience a mental health condition. Yet there is no shared vision for mental health in the workplace. The World Federation for Mental Health is trying to change that. World Mental Health Day is October 10. This year's theme is Mental Health in the Workplace. The Federation for Mental Health is giving you resources to celebrate World Mental Health Day on social media. So what can you do to show support? You can raise awareness on social media with the hashtag World Mental Health Day. And you can sign the pledge to commit to promoting mental health. You can also post the graphics that they provide at wfmh.global. Visit their Twitter page at WMHDay and Facebook at WMHDay1 for more information. And remember to follow along with the hashtag World Mental Health Day.
And finally, for today's program, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history.
This week, learn how the Adventist Church was organized in the U.S. state of Nebraska.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. On September 24, 1951, Iceland Adventist Secondary School, or Hlíðardalsskóli in Icelandic, was dedicated by the President of the Northern European Division, Floyd Tarr, who you see here. The work of constructing the school had begun just over 2 years earlier. Iceland Secondary School ceased operation in 1995 during a period of financial difficulties for the Iceland Conference, but the property was not sold and still operates today as a retreat center. On September 25, in 1878, the Nebraska Conference was organized with Charles L. Boyd, who you see here, as president, and G.S. Reichert as secretary. The conference consisted of 17 churches with a membership of about 350. Just over a century later, it was merged with the Kansas Conference, and today the Kansas-Nebraska Conference has 12,000 church members in just over 100 congregations. For 5 days of this week, 134 years ago, from the 26th of September through the 2nd of October 1883, 5 years after the founding of the Nebraska Conference, the first Colorado camp meeting was held near Denver, and it organized the Colorado Conference. 4 churches with a total membership of 30 sent 9 delegates to the founding session. They elected Edwin R. Jones, the first president, Joseph W. Horner as secretary, and Hosea H. Pierce as treasurer. All 3 men were in their 30s, which was not unusual then, but is almost unheard of for conference officers today. The Colorado Conference comprised Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming. Today called the Rocky Mountain Conference, it still includes Colorado and Wyoming, but its membership has increased 600-fold to 18,000 in 120 congregations. And that was This Week in Seventh-day Adventist history.
Thanks for watching ANN. We hope you join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
And be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos, and then write up a summary of the event's important details. And feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 58.
The passage says, "So my dear brothers and sisters, be strong and immovable. Always work enthusiastically for the Lord, for you know that nothing you do for the Lord is ever useless."
That's our program for this week, and remember you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.